This video of CES 2019 coverage is brought to you by Fantex. All right, we're at the Fantex suite. They have a lot of good stuff today. This is the Lux 2. Beautiful case. It actually incorporates several elements and kind of borrows some design features from the existing Lux and the Primo dual system chassis. So you can see here we've actually got, I believe that's an ATX board, or maybe it's EATX. You can actually fit EEB motherboards in here, no problem. And you also have room for a mini ITX board down there. So dual system, there's a lot of flexibility, a lot of options here. You can actually mount two 480s and two 360 rads in here at the same time. It's absolutely ludicrous. You can see here the whole system has been custom water cooled. You actually have options for vertically mounting both GPUs if you want to, and I love the fact that they're both triple slot, so it actually puts the card a little bit further away from the glass panel. Beautiful tempered glass panel. I believe it's held in place with some magnets as well as the option to screw it down. I should also mention this is a prototype case, so if you guys have any feedback, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'm sure Fantex will read all of them. We also have some really nice mesh here. It's actually a fabric mesh that we actually saw at Computex earlier last year. This is really nice material. It actually helps with air permeation. The airflow can actually penetrate this a lot better than a conventional mesh design with that plastic material. So you get full aluminum construction on the outside. And if we go around here, look at this. This is the nicest right side of a system I've ever seen. You've got ample ventilation and dust filtration for any fans or radiators that you mount right here. Definitely a good place to put some RGB fans. And look at this generous window, tempered glass for three mounted SSDs, 2.5-inch drives. Again, this is definitely a reason to get some RGB SSDs in here. Looks really nice. You also have ventilation, of course, for your power supply. Worth noting that you can fit up to 2 power supplies in here, of course, since it is a dual system chassis. And of course, Fantex already has their own line of power supplies that can split. You can use a single power supply to drive 2 systems at once. Or you can just put 2 of their power supplies in here for added redundancy or additional power. You can expect this case to arrive sometime around Q2, maybe towards the end of that. And if the original Lux was around 170 bucks US, you can probably expect the price to be somewhere within that range. We also got some metallic gear cases here. These are brand new. We got the Neo G, the Neo Air, and the Neo Silent. Pretty much similar cases internally, actually exactly the same internal layout, but they all serve a different purpose externally. For example, the Neo G has a lovely tempered glass front panel and side panel. They all feature tempered glass side panels, but this one actually has a tempered glass front panel with their sort of iconic design there. Looks very nice. And over here, you've got the Neo Air, fully mesh. So this is obviously going to be really good for performance, airflow. Maybe you're sticking some hotter running components in here. This might be the case to get out of the 3. And then of course the Neo Silent, if you're just going for pure quietness and you're trying to hit that acoustic profile strong, then go with this. It's a little bit closed off here, but still obviously we've got ventilation on the sides and the top. Of course, you're just going to have a quieter sound profile there. Over here, Metallic Gear now has fans in a variety of flavors. All 3 of these sections are available in 120s or 140 varieties. Over here, you have the Skyron 120 and 140. Pretty standard. No fancy frills. Probably going to be a little bit cheaper than your standard fan because there's no RGB. If you want to step on up to the big boys, you've got the digital RGB Skyrons, 120, 140 as well. And then you've got regular RGB. Still looks very nice and very colorful. I should also mention they're all PWM fans and they all have black cables, which is important to me. So you guys remember the Eclipse P600S that we took a gander at during Computex last year? It was sort of in a prototype phase then. It's ready now. It should be ready to ship in like a couple weeks or so. This is actually chalking up to be one of my favorite cases. We'll be doing a build in this exact chassis in our hotel suite later this week, so stay tuned for that. Very exciting stuff. A lot of flexibility here as well. Typical Fantex, you've got these panels, toolless, magnetic, removable. Love it. So you can optimize it for airflow or performance. And you've got that nice fabric mesh once again to let more air pass through than your conventional plastic mesh. There's very minimal lighting here. You've got a white LED on the power button. That's pretty much it. I kind of like it. I'm digging it. You've also got a tempered glass side panel with that lovely magnet. And inside you can see with this the AC, the anthracite gray, they've actually continued the color, not just on the inside, but or not just on the outside, but on the inside as well. And then tons of room for activities. It does come with 2 140s at the front and another 140 at the back. All typical great Fantex quality fans there. And this is, again, the same interior layout that you'd find with the Evolve X, which is a slightly higher end case. It's got RGB and all that stuff, but this definitely gets the job done. The other thing that they didn't have at Computex was other colors. So you just saw the gray one over there, black and white, looks really nice as well. And you can just sort of see, if you come over here, just like the different use case scenarios you can use with this chassis, how they have kind of a server. They kind of have a server set up here with all the drives. You can fit tons of mechanical storage in here. And obviously the other one we just looked at was more of a gaming-centric system. So the possibilities are seemingly endless. And of course, just like the Evolve X, you've got room for a mini ITX system up there as well. You probably want to pop this top panel off because we've got an AIO that could stand to breathe a little bit, but options, tons and tons of options. And of course, black. Black is classic. Everyone loves black. The interesting thing about the black one is that it's going to be the only color that's offered as an option to have a completely closed off side panel. So no glass, no frills. You don't care about the inside or what it looks like anyway. You just want it to be silent, because all of these cases will feature the nice sound damping material, at least on the right side. But if you get the fully closed off side panel in black, it'll be even quieter that way. Fantex also has new water blocks for the RTX series. These are launching next week. When you see this video, it's probably right around the corner. You can see they've gone with a lot more acrylic. That's just to illuminate the block overall. Of course, you've got that RGB lighting that gets sort of diffused over that acrylic surface. It's really nice. And then they've got these mirrored finishes just kind of rounding things out. It's a nice contrast. I really like the way that they're looking so far. You can see that these are actually for third-party GPUs. So we've got one for the RTX 2080 Ti Strix from Asus, and we also have one for the 2080 Ti Extreme from Gigabyte. Bear in mind that these cards will already ship with their own backplates, and these water blocks will be compatible with those third-party backplates, so you don't need to buy an extra one. That being said, let's say you're going for a Founders Edition RTX 2080 Ti. They have blocks for those too, and backplates. So you can see that, looks really nice. I should also mention that these all feature a bigger fin surface area, and they're going to be overall more efficient and better at cooling your GPUs under any kind of load. And here we have the biggest motherboard I've ever seen. This is the Asus Dominus with socket P that Asus and Intel have been showing off lately, but it's absolutely massive. And the interesting about this board is that when Asus made it, they didn't really think about what cases would be able to fit it. And so they actually contacted Fantex and said, hey, we think that your case, the Enthoo Elite, is probably the only case right now that could fit this gargantuan motherboard. And as far as we can all tell, they're right. The Elite is the only case that reasonably fits this oversized board. Asus claims it to be EEB form factor, but it's not. They're lying. It's actually a little bit taller and a little bit wider than a standard board of that form factor. But additionally, Asus also had some issues trying to cool their own board, particularly the VRM. So you've got, I don't know, almost 40 MOSFETs and chokes just going across here at the very top of the board that the original Asus cooler just wasn't cutting it. So Fantex came in once again with their VRM water block and for the CPU, and temperatures are looking much better now. This will actually be sold in a kit, so it's almost, it kind of goes without saying, if you're going to buy a board like this, you're going to want some extreme cooling solution. Now obviously there's different schools of thought. Do you want to water cool a system that's intended to be reliable and also very expensive? That's ultimately going to be a decision for the end user. But if you are looking for absolute performance, this is a pretty good place to start. So overall, I mean, big picture here, you've got this ridiculous board that fits perfectly in the Enthoo Elite with a Fantex cooling system that can handle the crazy amount of heat that this thing's pumping out, and you've got the Revolt Pro to actually power everything efficiently and effectively. So it's kind of an all-in-one ecosystem, if you will, if you're trying to run this platform with this board. All right, MSI. They were showing off their brand new GS75 Stealth laptop. You guys are probably already familiar with their GS65 Stealth. The original is a 15-inch. This is now a 17-inch, and it's been given the RTX treatment. So the demo they were showing off actually featured an RTX 2080 Max-Q. Now obviously the Max-Q has more stringent power limitations and clock speed isn't quite as high, but it is still a super powerful GPU that's miraculously been squeezed into this really thin form factor. The screen is still 1920 by 1080 resolution, but you are still getting 144 hertz. MSI is also really proud of their cooling solution that they have in here. Their Cooler Boost Trinity Plus actually features 3 fans and 7 built-in copper heat pipes, which is supposed to do a great job of keeping thermals in check. There's also a back panel underneath the laptop that pops off, revealing 3 M.2 slots. So they're all very accessible if you want to swap them out, upgrade later down the line. They're also touting 192 kilohertz, 24-bit audio. So very high res. It's got Dynaudio speakers with a passive radiator built in. The trackpad has been made 35% wider, so so you've got a lot more room to spare there when you're not using a mouse, of course. And they also advertise more than 10 multi-finger gestures just to make life a little bit easier. You get 8 hours of battery life still. That's for productivity, of course, with light web browsing and Word documents and stuff like that. If you're gaming, it's going to be a different story. They didn't actually advertise how long you have if you're in the middle of a firefight. Additionally, we don't know the price. Of course, it's going to be a pretty penny. It is their flagship model in that thin and light series. However, we can expect it just around the corner at the end of this month here in January. So keep your eyes peeled for that. All right, so we're at the Corsair suite now, and they have a lot of cool stuff. The first thing I checked out was their new line of RGB Dominator Platinum DDR4 memory. It's available all the way up to 4800 megahertz, which is blazing fast. These RAM sticks look great. They're sort of a matte black, very stealthy looking, but the lighting is super bright. And the reason why is because they've done something really cool with the actual LEDs. The diodes themselves that you see on a regular LED strip, there's a bunch of stuff going on around each of those diodes. It's got a lens, it's got a housing, it's physically soldered to the strip itself. Corsair actually did away with all of that and instead just took the diode and surface mounted it to the substrate. So you can actually fit a ton of diodes into a very small space. This gives you a lot of flexibility. Also, because there's not any soldering material, it's a lot more power efficient. So you're actually using less power for brighter light and richer color. Having the diodes in this way also allows you more granularity when changing between colors. So you can do things like color temperature changes with a lot more precision and accuracy. Now, Corsair hasn't actually crammed hundreds of diodes into each of these RAM sticks. Rather, they're starting off small. So each stick currently only has 12 diodes in it, but the long-term plan is to eventually implement this crazy clustered, densely packed amount of diodes into not just RAM sticks, but water blocks, headsets, keyboards, and the list goes on. I mean, if you know Corsair, you know they're probably going to slap this technology on everything they can. This is the Corsair One Pro i180. This thing's an absolute powerhouse. It's of course in the same sort of chassis that we've seen the original Corsair One in. Very slim, very portable. We've got an ML140 Pro fan that's going to push air completely through the entire chassis. It's going to hit all the components evenly. And the main specs we have here include an Intel Core i9 9920K. That's right, we're actually on the X299 platform. It's rocking an ASRock X299E ITX AC custom motherboard, along with, get this, a GeForce RTX 2080 Ti Dukla. Both the CPU and the GPU are fixed with Corsair's in-house liquid cooling solution for ultimate cooling potential. You also get a quad-channel 32-gig kit of Corsair Vengeance SO-DIMM DDR4 2666, 960-gig NVMe M.2 drive, 2 terabytes mechanical storage, and one of Corsair's SF 750-watt power supplies. No word on pricing, but it's probably going to cost more than your car. Corsair is also showing off their Harpoon RGB wireless mouse. It's not a high-end mouse, it's not super expensive, it's a $50 wireless mouse, and it was the first thing that they showed me when I walked in here. The real special feature about this product is the wireless technology that's built into it. Corsair is calling it their slipstream technology, and it's capable of delivering half a millisecond of point-to-point latency, which is extremely fast for wireless. It uses a dual-band connection, so it's actually sending twice the amount of signal in a fraction of the time most other wireless solutions are capable of. This also gives it an extremely good signal range of up to 33 feet. Built in is the Intelligent Frequency Shift, or IFS, which basically shifts wireless channels on the fly so that you always have a stable and reliable connection. The mouse can house its own dongle, which you can obviously take out and put into your system via a USB port. You can actually connect an additional slipstream device to that single dongle. In the future, they're going to be releasing a headset that uses the slipstream technology. That's actually really exciting because you're going to get pretty much wired level audio quality with your microphone, but it'll be completely tether-free. Because the amount of data that you're sending over a microphone is going to be a lot larger, those dongles will be slightly bigger. That being said, they'll also be able to support up to 4 slipstream devices as opposed to 2, like with the Harpoon RGB wireless. So we're at Thermaltake now. This is the level 20 RGB gaming table. I should be focusing on the table. Wifey Sauce is doing a great job demonstrating how to use a table. It's motorized, so if you look over here, we do have fully manual operation. Look at that. This is a huge table too. It can support pretty much all of Thermaltake's really big cases. Great weight capacity. You can pretty much see that there's RGB rope lighting that goes across the entire perimeter of the table. Looks really good. Comes included with the mouse pad, or a desk mat I should say. It's really a desk-sized mouse pad. Stitched edging, very high quality. So you notice that as Wifey Sauce is going about changing different characters in Overwatch, the table lighting, as well as the lighting in the chassis, is all in sync. Next up we have memory. Thermaltake makes memory now? What is happening? What universe are we in? So this is the first time Thermaltake has ever made DDR4 memory, or any kind of memory for that matter. This is their WaterRAM RGB liquid-cooled memory. It actually comes included with an addressable RGB water block. Starting off, they're going to be available in 16 or 32 gig capacities at speeds up to 3200 megahertz. That's going to increase over time. Very minimalistic design, completely blacked out. So the way you actually install this is you put all the sticks in first. Where's my finger? You install all the sticks first, and then you mount the block to the sticks because there's two threaded holes in each of these RAM sticks. So you can essentially bolt the water block down. As for RGB connectivity, you can see that there's actually sort of a Y splitter that comes off here. It's not very long, which I like. And then from there, you can choose if you want to connect this to your motherboard directly or to one of Thermaltake's own RGB controllers. What's also interesting about these kits is that even the 16 gigabyte kit is going to come with 4 DIMM sticks. So 2 of them are going to be real 8 gig sticks, and then there will be 2 dummy sticks as well, so you still get this fully populated look. Obviously, the 32 gig kit will come with 4 actual 8 gig DIMMs. All right, so we're at the Gigabyte Suite, and they're showing off their brand new Aorus monitor, model number AD27QD. It's actually the first monitor that Gigabyte's ever come to market with, which is pretty exciting, and actually the specs are damn good. We've got 144 hertz, 27-inch IPS, 2560 by 1440 with FreeSync, 1 millisecond response time, HDR, DCI-P3, as opposed to a lot of the monitors in this class are actually Adobe sRGB, so get a bit wider of a color space there. There's also a lot more to this monitor than just specs. It's fairly unique in a sense, with a ton of features that we'll cover now. Well, I'll start with the cheesiest feature first, which is their tactical game assistant, also known as cheating. You can see here I'm playing CSGO and there's a reticle. The reticle is actually not in the game. It's part of the monitor's firmware that you can toggle on and off. You can even change what the reticle looks like. You can make it a happy face or whatever. That way you can get all the 360 no-scopes and impress your friends, assuming they don't know you're cheating. The other thing you can do is pop up an overlay. Everything's hotkeyable as well, so you can make it whatever hotkeys you want. This is, again, all part of the monitor's firmware, so you're not having to run a separate app on your system, bogging things down. And it doesn't matter what game you're playing, this overlay will stay over whatever application you're trying to monitor because the game doesn't even know it's there, essentially. It's all hardware based in that sense. You can see here, it just looks like a regular app on your system, and it's very expansive. There's a ton of options here. You don't have to fiddle around with an annoying joystick on the monitor itself. You've got general settings. Oh, ANC, active noise canceling, built into the monitor. So this isn't so that you can't hear keyboard clicks and other outside noises from your friends or whoever you're gaming with. It's so that they can't hear you. So it's actually for the friends that you're playing with, or let's say you're a streamer and you're clacking away, you don't want your viewers to hear all of that ambient noise. It's actually really effective. They did a demo using some really crappy earbuds, like $10 earbuds, essentially showing that it works with any kind of grade of headphones or audio source that you're using. And with the active noise canceling enabled, I could not hear the blasting music or the massive keyboard clacking that the demonstrator was actually doing, literally less than a foot away from his mic. It was really impressive. At the same time, I could hear his voice crystal clear. I've actually never really experienced any kind of ANC technology like this before, at least in a demo form, especially integrated into a monitor. I think it's one of the most unique features about this panel that really sets it apart from other panels in its class. And also, the build quality of the panel itself is probably top of the line. It beats out my Predator X34. The entire base and the stand itself is metallic. There's like hardly any plastic on the panel. It just feels heavy. It feels like a really good solid panel. They also have a feature called aim stabilizer, which my high level understanding is that it injects a black frame at various intervals, depending on what your frame rate is, to trick your eyes into seeing a smoother image. So when you're firing and you're looking at bullet holes going all over the walls, you can actually see exactly where those bullet holes are going a lot sharper with that feature enabled. They actually showed me a demo with the Blur Busters motion test here with the feature on and off, and I could definitely notice a difference. It's objectively better with the aim stabilizer enabled. Now, just to reiterate, this is a FreeSync panel. I did ask Gigabyte if they had plans to release a G-Sync model in the future, and they kind of gave me one of those like wink wink nudge nudge nods and stuff, so I guess that's a yes. As far as pricing, we don't know yet, but we won't have to wait much longer till we find out because this panel launches at the end of this month, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Video cards, still at Gigabyte. They have a bunch of RTX 2060s here, so you get that full suite of RTX technology and some pretty decent performance. If you guys watch my review, you know that the Founders Edition card that I tested was pretty much on par performance-wise to a GTX 1070 Ti. And 1070 Ti's right now can't be had for less than $400. So if this can actually launch at its rated MSRP of $349, it's actually a pretty good deal. IMO. So let's take a look at some of these cards here. They've got 4 of them on display, starting with the RTX 2060 Mini ITX OC, 6 gigabyte card. Actually, all these cards are featuring 6 gigs of GDDR6 memory. And this is a nice little mini card if you've got a small form factor case. They are going to be selling, I believe, an external GPU dock specifically for this card in the near future, so be on the lookout for that. This one has your standard 8-pin PCIe connector, and it looks like standard rear I/O as well. There are no actual specs on any of these placards, so I can't really tell you much about those, but we can just take a look at the physical differences of these 4 cards. This is the RTX 2060 WindForce OC 6 gigabyte model. Got a dual fan heatsink design here. This is actually a longer card than the non-WindForce card. You can see by about 1.5 inches perhaps, which means you're going to get better cooling potentially. Nice backplate. This one looks a bit more rugged, still plastic, I believe, but you know, these are supposed to be on the cheaper side of things, so really targeting the masses. And then finally, we have the RTX 2060 Gaming OC 6 gigabyte. This is probably the top-end model in the RTX 2060 line from Gigabyte for now. Still only an 8-pin. You do get upgraded to a metallic backplate because you're fancy like that, and I believe there is probably some RGB lighting under that Gigabyte logo right there. Triple fan design, very large card. Again, really not sure about pricing here. Obviously, it's probably going to scale up, starting from the Mini going up to the WindForce, but you can expect these cards to arrive sometime mid-January. That's this month, so it's like in a week. Well, that's CES Day 1, guys. That's going to be a wrap for now. Thanks so much for watching, and a special thanks to Fantex for sponsoring this video. It's been a long day. If you guys have never done a CES before, quite exhausting, so now it's time to relax and have some peace and quiet. Oh! Oh! Oh my God! Oh no! Oh no!